Welcome back, everybody. My name is Grace, or Gibby, and today I'm here with a Black Friday guide that will hopefully age well into the coming years. This guide is going to be quite a doozy, quite long, because I'm including a lot of items, not just the meta ones, but the ones that are like fringe off the meta, and hoping to include everything and all the questions anyone could have. I'm going to be talking for a while, so I might make some mistakes. If you see text on screen that's like obviously edited in, correcting something I said, trust that obviously. Check the comments in the description. And if you're only interested in certain items or item categories, check the description. With all that being said, let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to do is clarify a bit about Black Friday and AQ and what it does or doesn't do. First off, Black Friday is a 50% sale on almost all token items in game. And there are a few sections, but I will get to that. Exceptions, but I'll get to that later. And second, Black Friday on its own does not affect Z token packages you buy with IRL money. Oftentimes, there's a sale going on that overlaps it, like there is at the time of this recording in 2023, but make sure to check before you buy, as there may or may not be a sale or a bonus. Almost always there is, but check first. Next up, there are just a few exceptions to things that are not affected by the Black Friday in-game token sale. Those exceptions are item slots, the shared vault, faces, and quests where you spend Z tokens, like the quest for the Radius Dragon. Okay, so fourth, if you're buying GGBs, they are at the discounted price if it's during Black Friday. It's just a visual bug that says it's the full cost. If you're not sure, if you're like at the beginning of Black Friday or at the end of Black Friday, if the sale is still going, buy one box, check your token total before and after. If you only spent 125, then it's Black Friday. If you spent 250, then the sale is over and you missed it. Next up, housing interest. So I don't actually love housing interest, but I'll talk about that later. But houses purchased use their interest rate based on the price you buy them at. So, if you want to buy houses for the purpose of making interest, buy them during Black Friday and you'll get half the interest. I don't recommend waiting on houses for interest really, since you need multiple years to make a good profit, but if you want to do it, go for it. Just know that if you buy them outside of Black Friday, they'll have higher interest, but of course, for higher investment. Okay, golden gift boxes. I'm a little happy with this meme, but let's just get into the info. They are just as important as token items because they're honestly a lot more updated these days than the majority of Z token items. Keep in mind you can buy golden gift boxes, open them, and then leave the shop without buying anything and save them for seasonal releases in the future. This video only covers token items, but many people shop for golden gift boxes during this time too, because many of them are more recently updated and extremely powerful. If you're interested in golden gift boxes, you should know that spending 20,000 tokens on golden gift boxes will average you 6 ultra rares, 20 rares, and 174 commons. You can convert 25 commons to a rare and 10 rares to an ultra rare. You can use those calculations for a reasonable estimate of how much you'd have to spend to get your favorite items. If you want to know what GGB items do, you should either check out the wikis list or my list, which is linked in the description. And my list is aimed to be a filtered list that takes out all the trash items from the GGBs that are old and worse than like normal free-to-play items. My list is somewhat opinionated though, so make sure to check out some other ideas before you rush and buy everything. Okay, so a lot of token items are seasonal, so you can't normally buy them during Black Friday. People get around this in one of two ways. First, they buy a low-level version of the item when that seasonal event is happening, and then they wait until Black Friday to upgrade it at a discounted price. If you're going to do this, make sure not to buy a gold version of the item because sometimes the lowest level version is gold cost, and gold cost items cannot be upgraded into token items, so you'd just be like cucked. Second, they can buy the portal painting to access the item, whether it's a limited time shop or a seasonal event, and then just buy it during Black Friday. I like doing that personally. So I really value having access to all of the seasonal portal paintings and seasonal content. So I have pretty much every portal painting and seasonal item. These essentially work as a time machine to take you to a normally unavailable event or limited time shop. They cost 1,500 tokens each, so they're pretty pricey. They also have void bosses, but I don't really recommend that, especially with a void revamp coming, except for Fruitcake Zard, which I recommend for gold farming. Cakus I don't recommend for gold farming, but some people like it. But anyways, there are 7 normal seasonal event paintings, 8 if you count the Cinco de Mayo, and 9 if you count the Pride event as well, which currently only has 1 quest at the time of recording. And for the Cinco de Mayo painting, you can buy the level 5 version, and it accomplishes almost the exact same thing. There are also the Frostvale paintings, which each give access to a specific quest year. Each one is 2,000, and they go from 2014 to the present day. So they're in the Frostvale limited time shop. So if you buy that limited time shop painting, you can buy them all discounted the year after at Black Friday. Finally, there are the limited time shop paintings, and there are about 16 of them. There might be 1 or 2 more that come out by the time this video you're watching this, but at the moment there are 16 or 17, and each one is 1,500. Buying all of these paintings all at once is a wild amount of tokens, but the seasonal event paintings are really useful. Mogloween, April Fools, Snugglefest, and Grenwog are probably the most important, with the most varied content, but that's my opinion. Here's the last note. Estates are a huge waste of tokens and provide no real benefit to the player, pretty much ever. What you'll want is a museum for monthly golden gift boxes, and that's it. Everything else is a super expensive minigame with next to no payoff. If you are going to get estates, though, make sure to watch the Legends of Lore schedule closely, as you can only get the Shadow Guards discounted for 1 or 2 days during Black Friday, and they're super efficient for guarding, so you do really want them. I think that's everything that's, about the mechanics of Black Friday. Now I'm going to get into the meat of the video, which is talking about all the useful and potentially useful token items. This is a lot of my opinions, so if you disagree with me on how good or bad an item is, feel free to leave a comment about it, or petition me to take it off the Google Doc list I have. Also, check out the Google Doc in the description. It's got everything that you can buy with tokens, or almost every item. I missed a few. Hard to track them all down, but I tried. And it's got a basic color-coded ranking, which again is my opinion, but I think it's pretty useful as a generic resource. With all that being said, let's get into it. Houses. Realistically, every player should have a house. It's a really great way to get potions conveniently. It gives you cheap item slots and access to gold and XP farming strategies. That being said, there's a few options. First off, museums. Museums are the only passive income in AQ I like, since houses take ages and ages to make you serious profit. A museum pays itself off in a little over a year, not including the sale price of the item as well. What it does is it's an estate item that gives you 1 golden gift box per month. And as long as your account has a guardian character, it'll do that. If you're all adventurers, it doesn't work, unfortunately. That's all it does, but if you buy it at its cheapest, 1,500 tokens, during Black Friday, you'll profit after 15 months. The cheapest estate you can buy is 1,163 tokens, which is the Forest Log Cabin estate. So you can get that on all your alt accounts if you want to farm gift boxes passively. Next up, the nicest house for someone who's quite broke, but still wants some utility, is the Forest Log Cabin. It gives you 6 item slots for only 750 tokens, and you can get 10 potions, which is like enough for any single boss fight. And that's pretty much it. It's a much better deal than most of the other houses for like item slots to tokens, if you're stretched for tokens. Like you'd have to be hella broke to get it, respectfully, but it's there if you want it. The biggest, fanciest house is the Sky Castle Mansion Estate. It has 20 slots, a temporary guest, weapon, the most estate space of any house. It's nice to have if you're rich or have tokens to spare. It's 8,750, but not at all required, and it only gives 2 slots over the Forest Mansion Estate, which is 5,625 tokens. And that's like discounted as well. So those 3,000 tokens for 2 slots, not really worth it. but if you want it, you should buy it. Finally, there's some other houses with unique content. The Darren Mansion has a funky temp armor with a spellcast chance on a basic attack, as well as the more well-known Sea Worm you can fight. No real significance in either of those, but you might want them. The Frostvale Mansion has a mini quest you can complete, which I've never seen anyone talk about, and it will be my Christmas video this year, so don't go do it before me or you're just like a loser. And finally, the Celestial Mansion is just different and cool. I'm a Neko fan, I'll be honest. I think it's cool. One thing LB did right. Jokes. Anyways, it's different. It's just totally new art style, so if you want to buy it, go for it. That's mostly it for houses, so I'm going to transition into the weapons section. Let me get a drink of water. Important to stay hydrated, as has become tradition in these Black Friday videos. Okay, there's a lot of great stuff in weapons. What I'm going to start with is telling you about the permanently available items, which anyone can get during Black Friday, and then I'm going to transition into the seasonal items, which you'd have to buy ahead of time and upgrade, or have a painting to get. Cephalolas and Terror Eater. Why no picture of Cephalolas? Because I haven't bought it yet. I've been busy. But these two weapons are great stuff. Two of my favorite token weapons, and it's kind of funny that they're both weapon click skills. Like Terror Eater was the original super nuke weapon, and it's a weapon click skill. And Cephalolas is like a new meta weapon click nuking skill weapon, which I just think is great. But specifically, it's popular for charisma builds. So the big draw of this water weapon is that it's a charisma weapon, and it has a full 200% base damage charisma-based click skill, which can be imbued with things like Bloodsucker. Currently, it's the only one of its kind, a full damage charisma-based weapon click skill. If you don't run a main stat, so you only use endurance, charisma, and luck, and you want to be offensive without spells, this weapon is a strong tool. Otherwise, if you have a main stat, this weapon doesn't really do anything unique, but it is a charisma scaling weapon, so it's cool. The Terror Eater is an infamous item, and it's cheaper token cost too. It's like, I think 2k discounted, maybe a little less. And it's a dark, melee ranged magic swap weapon with the ability to eat fear and do billions of damage. It's weaker now that freedom is so common and that damage caps are so limiting, but it was usable against Pestilence and a couple of other bosses recently, so you might find uses for it. Next up are some alright weapons, and it's a little strange, but I view them as like pretty good, but not like super amazing. If you have a specific purpose for them, they can be great, but a general player probably won't look at it and be like, damn, I need that in my build. Also, strangely, they're all 100 procs. The Cello Bow is just a Wind Earth compression bow. If you need a Wind Earth compression bow, that's how you get it. Meduso Bow is an Earth bow that has a 55% chance to petrify on its basic attack. That's it. That's all it does, but it's notable. The Poison Bow is an energy bow that pays for half its damage for poison, inflicting 5 poison for 4 turns. The thing about it is it stacks in power with other poisons, not duration, so you can use it to do some funky stuff, building up really big poisons for 1 turn. Generally, it's a status bow. They're a dime a dozen, but you might be interested, depending on your how you use poison. Stun Bow is an energy bow that pays half its damage for paralyze, and has a base 62% paralyze chance, increased or decreased based off the enemy's energy resistance. It's a super low upkeep stun option, but it is unreliable. It can be better than Meduso Bow because against water monsters it has a significantly higher stun rate, although at base they're about the same. The Protector Rods. These weapons come in 4 elements: water, earth, energy, and light, and they compress 4 modes: a wand, a normal damage mode, a times 0.8 damage auto hit ranged mode, and a melee bleed mode. None of them are amazing on their own, but the compression is like unique in weapon slots. Nothing else compresses 4 modes. Actually, there's another weapon that just came out this year, but I'll get to that later. But some people might want the ranged auto hit because it comes in 4 elements and it's on the modern standard, even though it was made before the modern standard. mildly proud of this meme. But seasonal items, unfortunately, for everyone who's just returned since Josh's video, is where the meat of most players' Black Friday shopping comes in. So if you don't have these items now, you can at least consider getting lower level versions or grabbing their paintings as they come around this year. So keep these on your tracker if you're looking at what to buy. Where's the Book of Love screenshot? Oh, tragedy. Professional YouTuber, by the way. But we're going to start off with the 3 tomes. These are all released in 2023, and let's start off with the Book of Love. It's a red underworld tome with a heart on it. It's not that deep that I missed the image. You can just picture it. Just imagine it, No, jokes aside. It's an energy tome with 3 abilities. A normal energy spell, which is boring but fine. It has an efficient energy spell control leader, which is bad against freedom, but synergizes really well with vampires' cheap double cost control, or cheap cost double usage control. If you use enough potence to stack it, since it's quick cast, you get way more power out of the SP than you normally would. But again, damage caps and freedom. Finally, it's got a 3-turn duration, and this is the highlight in my opinion, including the turn you cast it, charisma boost, which is plus 90. It's pretty sweet for an item that players who don't pay any IRL money can get, although obviously less nice than the Unapoka package. But for free-to-play Beastmasters, Beast Mages, or Charisma build users, Charisma Steroid is nuts. Highly recommend. The Prism Heart Tome is the beauty of the bunch, and it's an Earth Tome with a few alright spells. I actually think it's overrated, but let's just talk about it. It's got a spell that's overcharged and pays 3/4 of its damage, so a lot of power, like a lot, more than an attack and a half. For a 7-turn duration prismatic burn, and the spell is 7 hits, which is sweet. Although you're not going to be doing too much damage because it pays so much damage for the effect, still quite nice. Prismatic burn's nice, but niche. The next spell is also normal spell cost. So it's cheaper than the overcharged one, and it pays half its damage to inflict a 4-turn Earth Poison, which is a siphon that heals for half the damage it deals. Finally, there's the Quick Cast Chroma Shield, which is 359 MP at max level, and it gives a 2-turn Omni Ellie Shield for 25 times the monster's Earth Resistance damage reduction. Overall, pretty useful, but a little overrated in my opinion. But then again, we're not really spoiled for Earth spells free to play, so it's nice enough. Also, as you can see, just a gorgeous item. And finally, the Underworld Tome, probably my favorite for free-to-play players. It's a dark tome with a trashy zero-cost fear spell, stolen straight off War's Legacy, which I predicted, by the way. Let it be known, I predicted that randomly. Anyways, back to the information. It has a normal cost dark spell that can eat up to 400% melee of fear to triple its damage, and it's 3 hits, so freedom and damage caps kinda hurt, but not necessarily. And finally, a spell that costs 257 MP on your turn to give 90 intellect for 3 turns, including the turn you cast. Really good for the int boost for any mage. It's like a free-to-play arcane amp with extra steps, which is, I would say, good enough. Good enough for me. I mean, hey, it's a good-ass item. Less convenient, but very powerful and more efficient. Next up, the Dominion and Independent Scythes. I love these. I used to play Dominion all the time with some buddies back in the day. Great card game if you never played it. If you don't get the Eagle meme, shame. They're both quick cast imbue weapons, and it's fire energy and inflicts thermal shock or hyposalinate. So fire freeze or energy freeze based off the damage dealt. It's nice as an imbue, but it's really expensive as all imbues are. Am I going to pick these up? Maybe not. Alright, Shark Saber. Attack of the Clones, but it's Fracture Point edition. It's the same weapon, except that it's melee. So it's a water weapon that gives bleed potence, inflicts bleed, and it's just solid for bleed builds. It'll be way better if the bleed status gets the instanced panic treatment, so it stacks better. But as it is a very powerful tool for Beast Warriors, especially considering the stat revamp, which gives them access to FD armors and pets and guests. Hoping that this has happened by the time you're watching this. Stat revamp 2027, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, Moving on. The next 4 weapons are just some solid weapons with a good use case for a variety of situations, but they're not like staples that you'd use every day. Well, one of them is, but the other 3 aren't. The Independence Dagger is the fire charisma weapon that makes pets and guests inflict fire elevon based off their hit count. It's really good sometimes in Beastmaster setups and has a ton of strong synergies. Stacking with elevon can get crazy. You can get crazy elevon with this thing. The Geographer's Hammer is a melee earth weapon that inflicts small permanent elevon based off of its hit count, up to 4, for up to 7% elevon a turn. It's earth elevon, not omni, and it's fun because it's a permanent effect. It lets you get theoretically infinite earth damage with a lifesteal guest like the Nightbane guest. You could theoretically ramp up infinitely. There are other things too, which would be great, ramped infinitely. But cool stuff, but otherwise not that notable. There's also the free-to-play Nature's Reclamation, which also does permanent earth elevon, so it's a lot less convenient, but you don't need this token item to do permanent earth elevon. So kind of a luxury pick. The Unfortunate Umbrella is a water spear that toggles between a Bloodblade mode with a small chance to give the monster celerity and a 1.5 times Lucky Strike damage mode. Just a nice offensive water weapon for rangers. Also, I like the art on it a lot. Nice little item. And finally, the Wildflower Bouquet. It's an earth, melee ranged magic swap item that has a click skill to inflict Prismatic Burn, trading half its damage for the effect. The save is main stat versus Dex, so not great, but not the worst. There aren't many ways to inflict a strong Prismatic Burn outside an armor. It's just Shenya, Prism Heart Tome, and this weapon. And this weapon can be used in any armor by any build, so it's nice for that. It also has some sick transformation animations. Check out this clip I'm about to put in. Yeah, so overall, just a nice weapon. Not amazing, but useful for a lot of strategies if you're stacking Prismatic Burn. Generally, you wouldn't stack Prismatic Burn, but if you wanted to, this is your go-to. Who put that there? That's crazy. What do you know? So these are some alright weapons, and the first I'm going to do is the Alchemist's Halberd. It's an RNG Bloodblade that switches between a random Lucky Strike boost, which is 1.3x, an accuracy boost, which is plus, I think, 16, and a damage boost, like a Bloodblade, randomly. But before you attack, you can tell what version it is. It's cool, but not that great at the moment. It's just cool, I think. The Canuck Cannon and the Liberty Launcher are ice and energy or fire and light compression weapons, and they can be 100 proc for ranged or magic, or 0 proc for melee. Kinda cool because it's like 6 compression options, but really only for people who want specific element compression. Fault-Eyed Dagger is a melee wind dagger with a sleep click skill. If you don't love sleep like I do, it's terrible, but I wanted to point it out because I'm pretty sure sleep is going to come back into the meta if freedom is ever reworked. And it could be really good at that point. But don't buy this item just because you think it might be good eventually. Like, wait until it's actually good. A sip of water. The Jubilant and Radiant Light of Prides are stun weapons that can swap from melee ranged and magic, and they come in light and energy versions. They have a 100% chance to stun the modder with a monster with a changing SP cost based off the monster's energy or light resistance, respectively. They are a reliable stun option for any build, which rangers really don't have many of, and warriors have like okay of. But overall, I think most players probably don't want to spend tokens on these. The Silk Streamer's Staff is a magic staff with a skill to lock the monster's MP. Rare that it'll come in handy, but if you want this effect, it's a great source for it. It is magic though, so keep that in mind. Almost every other Z-token weapon is kind of ass, or at least kind of ass compared to golden gift boxes, which are cheaper. Looking at you, Patriot Katana, which is alright, but not great. IMO. I'd skip them all unless you're looking for bad permanent defense loss, in which case you should get the Legion Pumpkin Slayer. But there's almost no reason to get any of the weapons, and I'm being a little generous saying that. With that being said, let's move on to the armors. If you're interested in more weapons, check out the spreadsheet. If you're not, let's go right into the armors. Again, the permanently available items are coming first, and then seasonal coming after. I don't know if I had something planned to say for this, but whatever. Oh man, White Knight C, classic meme, ripped the 2017 nuking era, which I definitely played during. Don't check my war history or account activity. Anyways, White Knight C is a fantastic nuking armor. It's got 2.2 Ellie comp almost, and it's a normal type skill, so it gets full benefit from damage boosters, and it can be imbued. So it checks all the boxes for nuking. That being said, its 3 hits and damage caps, like the move implies, do really limit it a lot. That being said, it's still a crazy good nuking armor, and damage caps aren't the be-all end-all of content, especially with a 0.75 clawback. Go to town with this guy if you want. Ebony Sepulchre form. People talk mad smack about using unidentified cheese for one reason or another, but I thought this was a funny little compilation. It's a dark armor with a skill that turns the monster undead. Trash for general use, but if you use it in combination with Paladin, you can make any monster without form shift immunity, of which there are only like 7 at the moment, a complete piece of cake. I don't really recommend it because you can just use Zorbac's Ally Assist 5 times a day, but if you want to use it more than 5 times, go ahead, buy the armor. That's pretty much it for good armors. We're on to like usable armors that I wouldn't really recommend, but you can use. Terra Raiment, it's a mediocre dark offensive armor with a fear skill. The nice thing is that the skill is imbuable since it's normal type, and the not nice thing is it's super outdated as a way to inflict fear compared to more meta modern items. I hardly want to recommend this, but it's discounted normally, so it's quite cheap compared to other armors. And it has that turn 1 stun chance, which is like really situationally useful. You might want it. Armor of the Warlord. This is a controversial one, but the main thing this armor has is it has not 1 but 2 damage steroid skills. I've never seen someone use it and use it well, but if you've got tokens to spare and want to use a weird and janky way to get multiplicative damage multipliers, this armor has a purpose. Really wouldn't recommend it unless you're the whaliest of whales, though. Okay, so seasonal armors, moving on to those. First up, Cherub. Great FD wind armor, compresses like literally 6 attack modifiers. Fully defensive wind. It's just nice. Competes with Lost Talon, I guess, because Lost Talon has that status potence and that triple compression, but it's a really good wind armor for FD builds. Spring Dryad Vestments is a strength intellect hybrid armor, and it's a little funky, but it's got some good passive buffs, lifesteal, which is an okay effect, and an okay damage skill. Not great, but okay. Also, it's FO water, so we need that. This is going to be so unfunny in 2027 after we get a repeat of the 7 FO Ice Warrior armors for water. Anyways, coping. Future Yoke's done for now. It's an alright armor for strengthened hybrids, or you can play it as a Ranger hybrid, because Rangers don't use hybrid stats, but I think the skill only scales with strength, and I have to check. If you're not interested, look it up yourself. Aside from these armors, there's a few that people like that I don't really like. There's a ton of color custom items, pretty much every updated class. I listed, I think, all of them there. There may be 1 or 2 I missed, but they're color custom. I'm not going to buy them. There's also the Light Water Werewolf form, which is a fine FO water armor, but that's pretty much it. The 4 elements of the Protector armor serve as like a weird low upkeep dodge nuke armor with lean toggles. Lean swap at will is like kind of underrated, but the armor doesn't do anything aside from that and the dodge nuking, which is, it's just weird. You could use it and be really efficient, but like, it's not flashy. Evil Knight is a fully offensive dark armor, which compresses earth and fire as a triple compression. Who's really going to use that when we have like every good fire armor and necromancer? But like maybe, I don't know. There's not too much else. Wabbit is scuffed quadruple compression. But like, yeah, there's really not that much for armors. So I want to move into shields, which, crazy enough, there's even less of. Yeah, they're like two worth buying. MTS room in the shields shopping section, but we'll just get right into it. Okay, Tropo Shield. Keen observers will realize I reused this meme from last year, and I will continue to do that every year. But absolutely, it's the top dog of offensive energy shields. It can inflict 43% LA Vuln to Earth, Energy, and Fire for, I think, 98 SP. Which is nuts, by the way. It's got some quirks to how it works, but essentially, you won't spend the SP unless you're about to hit with Fire, Earth, or Energy, or your pets and guests are. It stacks multiplicatively with other LA Vulns because it's a 0-turn duration. So just know it's as optimized as it can get for dealing Earth, Fire, or Energy damage. It's great for all three elements because Dark Invader exists and Lust and Envy exist. Really stellar offensive shield, would recommend. You will have to compress something else in your shield slot though, because it doesn't give any real defense. It gives like minus 19 to ice, water, and wind, I think. The Chaos Cauldron shields. Look at the art. Funny they just changed the eye color. But anyways, these are the Mogluine Fire and Dark shields. They may release more elemental clones in the future, but I'm not a prophet, so I'm not going to bother predicting. If they do, they're probably good. They're comparable to budget shield cakes, which is sweet. Each one has 3 options, and each one consumes a potion, or 2 for the third spill, and is quick cast. The first one gives Ellium power for 4 turns, the second one inflicts a poison for 4 turns, and the third one uses 2 potions, and inflicts Elivuln and defense loss for 8 turns. So just super stacked offensive shields, all the saves are at minus 20. They're just sweet. And they're easier to recharge than shield cakes if you have a house, because you can just load up those 50 potions. Pretty nice. I enjoy them. They've got some great synergy with Poison Eaters, and Elivuln is just a great stat. So is Death Loss, applied like this. All my Death Loss haters, you're not relevant. The other shields that I might recommend are the Terror Totem. It's one of the few items that can heal you at quick cast speed, since it's a quick cast heal that eats fear to boost its power. It's nice to have and a little powerful, but weaker since so many bosses have freedom, and it's not like stacked in the way that Terror Eater is. The Anniversary End Drive shields. Currently they're all rare, but they're Endurance Drive shields, which you get from the Anniversary Limited Time shop. And they usually make 1 each year for every element, but they didn't do it in 2023, so maybe they forgot. Or maybe they're done making them because nobody bought them. I know I bought them all, but either way, only way to get an Endurance Drive and a shield. So if you want it, you got it. The Shard of the Covenant is a barrier generator with no SP cost, but it takes your turn, it scales off int, and it's once per battle. Most people don't really need this, but I think it has a place in some efficient defensive strategies. So I'm just putting it here because theoretically useful, unlike a lot of the other token items that I did not list. The other stuff is all pretty ass, as I was saying. Although notably, the only custom color shield is the Eternal Champ shield. Ultimus is a Fire Dark Light triple compression shield, which is like 3 elements at once, not great. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's it for shields. So I'm going to move into spells. My disclaimer, first, is going to be spells, not guest spells. And secondly, I think that compared to like the other sections, the token spells are not that like game changing. Unless you like Abuse, in which case, go ahead. But for most players, they're really not like comparable in changing the game that much. If the auto hit spells have been updated since this recording, that would change. And if you really like Abuse, obviously there are a lot of good token Abuse. Hammerfall, my favorite token spell so far. It's modern efficient, so like 265 MP, and it gives 1.5 times LS damage. It competes with the Skeletal Spear's seasonal rare gift box, which is a spell which gives like 4x Lucky Strike rate. New Year's Surprise gives 15 bonus to hit, maybe 16. It competes with the stat boost spells, which would make your accuracy really overkill. For free-to-play rangers, they have Moonwalkers, or pay-to-win mages and warriors. They can use Buffalo and Arcane Amp, so it's lost its place as a meta option because of the stat revamp. Still really good though if you want more accuracy. Keep in mind it's halved for spells. Fire Dragon Talon is a fire imbue with plus 50% damage. It competes with Limpax Metal and it's really expensive, but it's a fire imbue with plus 50% damage. Like, it's a nice thing to have. The other imbues, there are several, and I'm going to just go through them. Light Lord's Blessing, light imbue for 2 turns. Sneak Strike, weapon element poison based off damage, lower SP cost, I think like 270. Dragon Slayer Oya, avoid against dragons for 2 turns. 196 SP, might have its SP cost upped, but probably won't. Thunderwave Blade is an energy paralyze imbue based off damage dealt. Terror Fist is a dark fear-based imbue based off damage dealt. These items all compete with Limpax Metal, which is free to play, and element customizable based off your Paxia clan. If you haven't heard of it, where have you been? It's awesome. And Dragon Slayer Aura specifically competes with the Void Forge package. The 2 imbues on this list that I think are the best are Dragon Slayer Aura, because Void for that cheap is nuts, and Sneak Strike. Only if you have Void Forged or some of the other Poison Eater items that we have gotten recently. Because it's just a great way to inflict massive poison, which you can then eat turn after turn for obviously high output. Those are my recommendations on imbues. So the auto-hit spells and the healing spells. The auto-hit spells come in fire, light, and dark, and they come in efficient, normal, and overcharged variants. The bummer is each option is a unique item, so there's 9 versions to buy. If you theoretically wanted to buy them all, you'd have to buy 9 token items. Last year I liked these options, but this year the auto-hit standard was updated, so new auto-hit items deal almost 20% more damage than the old ones do. Until they get buffed, they don't feel great to use, but the light one does have synergy with Mystic Retro Golden Axe, which heals mana and SP based off how accurate your hits are. So auto-hit is good for that. The healing spells. So Valencia has overcharged versions of Warlick and Yulger's MP and SP healing spells. They cost way more but deal more damage. They're more expensive for resources and they heal a little more. I like them, but it really is just a spell that will either make you heal a little faster or spend a little more resources. Would not recommend unless you love healing and have tokens to spare. These are the fringest of fringe options, because there's just not many other great token spells, at least that I could find. There's the Fall Tide Breeze, which is a wind sleep spell, and again, I love sleep, but most people don't. There's Evil Pencil, which is permanent stackable defense loss. Realistically, you'd just be better off killing the monster 9 times out of 10. But it's there. Gravy Cannon is a massive dex loss spell, think 300 plus. But dex loss in 2023? That's going to be really funny in 2027 when the stat revamp 3 happens. Anyways, enough future jokes I said already. Colored Pencil Z is an 8-element spell if for some reason you can't wait for Eye of Chaos in the Void, but the Void revamp is allegedly around the corner, so no reason to buy it. It also doesn't have an MC. Yeah, but the next section is for pets and guests. There's some pretty great ones in here, but they do compete with a lot of golden gift boxes, so research your golden gift boxes too. I'm going to treat these assuming dexterity was decoupled from pet and guest accuracy, so that pets and guests are build universal and whatnot. Weirdly, there's a lot of good options in Talk Like a Pirate Day. The rat contract guests are big damage because they pay gold, and big burn because they pay gold. Pretty much it. The treasure crabs come in earth and light, and they pay gold to do more damage and inflict an extremely strong blind. They're the best at blind, but they compete for damage with a rare Golden Gift Box Mimic and the free-to-play Golden Queen pet. So keep that in mind as you're buying. Great pets, great guests, but they have relevant competition. I think the rat contract guests compete with ultra rare guests, but the ultra rare guests pay like a good amount of SP, or they pay an HP or something or other. I can't remember exactly. So the rat contract guests have less effective competition, in my humble opinion. Magru, my goat, baby. This baby is a pet available from killing Starslayer, and it's interesting. It's got 3 modes: a damage mode, a mode that does energy burn, and a mode that heals mana. What's interesting is the mana heal is based off of monsters' energy resistance, and it's the only pure mana heal guest in the game, aside from the temporary Dragon Slayer Twilly. The burn mode is nice, but nothing special, and same with the damage mode. The pet is pretty much the same as other options like the Frostfield Ravens or Fairy Godmother, but the guest is unique on the energy burn and on the mana heal. For this reason, I like the guest a lot more than the pet. Really just for the mana heal, honestly. Like, it's such a nice thing. It does scale off energy resistance, so sometimes it'll be ass, but really nice to have, in my humble opinion. Giant Horror. This is basically a shopper warning. People bought them for their Dark Elevon back when they were the only good source of Dark Elevon. But we have gotten the Silas Ultra Rare Golden Gift Box pet was updated to be good Dark Fire Elevon and Element Seek. And the Ninja Lawyer Assassin contract was updated to do Dark Elevon as a guest, free to play, gold cost for Blarney. And it's just better. The only exception to this is the Giant Horror pet can do Dark Elevon, and it won't Ellie Seek to fire if you've been stacking Dark Elevon for some reason, which is a thing you can do pretty effectively with a lot of items. But like, that's such a niche scenario. I would not recommend it unless you like know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, I have had that happen. But anyways, moving on. There's a couple of the nice ones. Silk Screamer and Doom Minion. Silk Screamer is just objectively better Doom Minion, has a better save roll, also has an Entangle mode. Just a better pet. Doom Minion is available all the time though. It's not seasonal, not in the void. Fenris Pup gives 50 endurance for half its damage. Just a nice option. Also unique, giving a stat buff on a pet. And the Doomquake minions, of course, are pretty famous. They're an Earth MP cost guest. Big damage and big statuses, poison and bleed specifically. And they cost double upkeep. You can like customize them a little bit. They're cool. They're fun. They're different. There's a couple other pets and guests that are okay, but just quite rare that you'll want to use them, in my humble opinion. And I think not worth the tokens. I'll speedrun them. Decanor is my hottest take. It's a Wind Dark Overcharge Compression guest, but it competes hard with Necromancer's built-in guests like the Overcharged Wind Wraith, or the good Dark Burn pet, or the damage boosted Dark pet, and guest. So that's why I don't really recommend Decanor, but if you want compression and for some reason aren't running Necromancer, killer option, very good, but Necromancer makes it a lot weaker. The Groundhog and Blazing Groundhog are okay, but they compete with Pride Lord and Spotter Drake for ice and wind protection. So like, are you really going to put out those top tier pets for these guys who don't do anything? I don't know, maybe. The Iron Golem pet and guest can inflict Mind Lock, but that status is just so rarely useful that like, do you really want it? I don't know. The Nickel-clad Storm Owls do good damage and okay healing, but not the best at either. Even against monsters with high energy resistance, they can be really good, but like, not great. It's just rarely useful, even though it is good at what it does. You can also use them to deny SP regen or other regen, but that's such a fringe use that I wouldn't recommend it buying them unless you like really want that. Razor Claw inflicts a permanent cripple, which is strength and dex loss, but like, when is that actually useful? Hedgemog does slightly more energy damage, but only a little. Dark Hedgemog is just worse than the rare Mimic gift box pet. Both of the guests are trash. Don't buy either of them. They're outdated by free-to-play. There's a couple other super, super niche options, but I really wouldn't recommend it. Check out the spreadsheet if you're interested. Alright, we're finally getting close to the end. Miscs section coming up. It's an interesting section. There's only one or two Miscs that give you something that like no free-to-play items do, but there are a lot of Miscs that give you like compression or other stuff. So I'll get right into it. Optico Solo is your favorite verse. Probably the best Misc in the game. Top 5 at least. Or top 5 non-rare Miscs. It gives 10 Omnipotence for cheap, 50 Luck, which also helps with statuses, and you can toggle it to lose 8.5 bonus to hit, and 6 defense to give your pet 50% lucky strike rate. Super powerful for status infliction and for Beastmasters. Just a great Misc. Louis is a dodge last Misc. But in a majority of situations, it's just worse than Summoning Stone, an ultra rare golden gift box for damage, and it's a way, way higher SP upkeep. However, it does give 20 raw dodge boost, 10 from defenses, and 10 from a lean applied to the monster. So it can make up a big portion of your dodge compared to other items like Summoning Stone, which has less dodge. Using it for dodge nuke setups, you might find cheaper dodge upkeep with the Louis Misc than other options, like compared to Guest Celerity or something. But other than that, I don't really know. I don't love its state in the meta at the moment. If it gets its SP cost buffed, which it should, because of an update after the item came out, it might be a lot better. Mutter is ass. Unless it gets updated, it just does like tiny SP and MP damage. Terrible. It is auto hit, but terrible. There's Affinity Gauntlets. So these Miscs are Miscs you cannot buy during Black Friday because they don't have a painting. There are 5 of them, so it's 30k to get them all. I'm listing them here because you may want to save tokens for some of them. I honestly believe a couple of them are a little overrated, but they all have powerful quick cast skills in addition to providing that basic elemental defense. Some people like them for a reason. Take a look at them and see if you want to save them your tokens to buy when they come around. A lot of people really love these items, so it's a good option. The Necromancer Helms. There are a ton of these, and they come in different elements, and they defend against that element, and then they make your pets and guests either inflict a burn of that element or marginal bleed. It's not nothing, and they give 50 intellect and charisma and 30 endurance, but the upkeep is also quite high at 102 SP. Some people like them. I've started to not like them, but if you want to know the variants, feel free to check out that list I've put. The reason I don't like them is because the bleed and burn is just such a tiny amount compared to like actually inflicting a bleed or burn. So that's why I don't like them. But some people do, and they are good for defense and for mages with that stat line. So very usable. Here were a couple of random Miscs. Protosea cleanses dots really effectively, but currently the gold cost version works just as well, except it doesn't give you a regen. But the regen is ass anyways, so no real loss. The Terraset Misc is a dark defensive Misc which gives fear potence and inflicts some fear passively. Pretty good, but there are a couple of Miscs like Optico or like the other fear Miscs that are rare now that make people not love this item. But it's good. It's solid if you need fear potency. And then finally, the Dragon's Blood Charm is a Misc that gives 25% backlash against dragons. That's what it does. That's what it do, baby. For Backlash fans, only Backlash Misc that isn't rare at the moment. So you might want it, or you might not. Sunscreen is key, baby. So we got 2 sunblock Miscs for the summer season, I believe. Limited time shop. Let me drink some water. Speaking of the summer. There's light and water versions, and they either give plus 22% damage of their element, or times 0.5 damage taken of their element, and they give 50 endurance and charisma. They both have an overcharged burn skill, which inflicts a power 10 burn for 3 turns at a minus 20 save, and it costs, be ready, 674 SP. Powerful burn, but like crazy expensive. Do you want it? Probably not, but maybe. Who knows? Defensive Specialist Miscs. There's a ton of token Miscs that are made specifically to be defensive that are available. Shattered Horizon is a dark Misc that heals you, like Art of Osiris, so it's great for backlash and a few other things. It also inflicts panic and has MP upkeep, which is good or bad, depending on your build. The Mark Misc, one for several gods, all defend against 2 elements, and they give some minor defense as well as plus 50 of a single stat. They toggle between 2 defenses. You can see it down there on that list on the left. The Fire and Ice is I think it's the Mother's Day necklace charm. And the Energy and Water is the Father's Day tie. That's what it is. Father's Day tie. Those 2 are minus 10 to each resistance rather than times 0.5. If that's updated, no big deal. They'll do the same thing, just slightly differently. Slightly better and sometimes, and slightly worse at other times. Finally, there are some old style Miscs. Ever-Frozen Shard and Urn of Darien Good, which give minus 10 to 2 elements at the same time, and they cost your turn, like the head of the Radius Dragon. They do water and ice, and fire and energy. All these are viable options, and they'll serve the same purpose even if they're updated to the modern Misc standard. If you're going to buy these Miscs, keep in mind for free-to-play, we have a Light and Dark Misc, Mother's Day Earrings, Energy and Dark Misc, Power Core, from the Mecha Knight set, Earth and Wind from the, Father's Day Sock, Fire and Light at the same time from the Trophy of Supreme Enthusiasm, and Earth and Dark at the same time from the head of the Radius Dragon. So if you're going to buy these compression Miscs, make sure you're not doubling up with a free-to-play item. Okay, the Azmay Runestones controversial Miscs. There are only 2 of them that you should really consider using, at least for tokens. Keep in mind they cost 34 mana a turn, which is 4 turns for people without int, although you could switch in Fairy Godmother and fix that problem, but regardless, it's an inconvenience if you don't run int. The Chi Shielding Runestone, which makes your Azmay Golem into a slightly more powerful, in terms of numbers of output, Void Skull pet. And this is more powerful, including stuff like Optico or other Miscs. It slightly beats it out. But that being said, it's way less variable compared to Void Skull, which has 2 modes and can be swapped between Chi Shield or Mana Shield. I'd say 100% get the Void Skull pet over this, unless that pet goes rare, or unless you really want a Chi Shielding pet before the Void Skull comes back. Secondly, there's a Poison Runestone. 3 out of 4 attacks, it will inflict a Power 1 poison for 10 turns. And its harm, so 100% melee worth of poison. If you have ever used a Poison Eater, you probably know that that's nuts for stacking poison. Really low upkeep compared to, Venom Jade Crown or, Bio GPS or whatever. So super cheap way to feed Poison Eaters. It's the only real reason to use it, otherwise don't get it. Not good for actually being good, just good for poison eating. That's pretty much it for Black Friday. I hope you enjoyed this video format and the memes that I put in. It was a fun little project to make. I'm glad I did it, although it was a ton of work. Sorry it came out so late in 2023. There's 5 days left, though. Y'all have time. Collecting all those Z token items, a lot of work. Filtering through the relevant GGB items, that was an hour or 2. So next year I'm probably going to lean on this video heavily, just update it with future items and items that have shifted in the meta due to other changes. With all that being said, thank you very much for watching, especially if you made it the whole way. Hope you have a great day. Hope you spread some peace and love. Take good care of yourself, and bye-bye.